Um, Most of the weapons that are the rifles and handguns that Deathstroke would use would have been things that he used in the military. For example, in the nightmare sequence in Zach's Justice League, I'm carrying an M249 SAW squad automatic weapon, which is the heavy weapon of the Navy SEALs. And so I'm very familiar with that weapon. I fired that a lot. And I figured, like, why not? A squad leader would carry an M4, not a SAW, but like, come on, we're in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Give me the heavy shit. So
give me the best.
But as far as like physically goes, yeah, I mean, it all is for the role. And I didn't want Deathstroke to be superhuman. That wasn't the plan. Maybe that could have come way down the line in, the Injustice League. Like, hey, if I'm going to fight Superman, Lex, then why don't you shoot me up with some of that serum you've got or something? But
yeah,
as far as going head to head with Batman in a contained story without the rest of the Justice League involved, then he should be the flip side of the coin to Batman. Batman had a tragedy happen to him at a very young age, and it affected him deeply. And due to that trauma, he went on this lifelong mission to basically, Batman is a utopian who believes in a better society. He believes that people can be better than they are. And he believes that what he's doing at night is going to make a difference. And Deathstroke, in my eyes, was someone who would have lost his son, gone through some form of trauma, and rather than go down this altruistic route, he would have wanted revenge. And that's a very caustic fuel. And also, I think, when you lose an eye, you think you're going to die. When you go, people who go through, near-death experiences, there's, you wind up in Nietzsche's tunnel. There's a very nihilistic approach. There's nothing else but what we have. And, when we die, we're mulch, and this is all meaningless, and there is no God. And I'm just going to get revenge and even the score while we're here. And that's a very dangerous person, I think. And but like I said, those are the flip side. That's the flip side of the coin. He's willing to use tactics that Bruce would not. When Ra's al Ghul presents Bruce with, murder this man, this thief, Bruce won't do it. Slade would. Yeah. Slade would do it. Slade would not. I don't think Slade would have much of a problem doing it. And so therein lies the difference, and which one is more suited to lead the League of Shadows or be a part of the League of Shadows. I leave that decision up to up to the audience. But those were along the lines of what I wanted to present. I wanted to basically step by step that there was this shadow version of Bruce Wayne, and the two of them were going to go head to head. And so it was really more about those were the types of things that I was preparing for.
As someone that covers this kind of thing, the stories that I write and the stories I look for are people who are actually engaged with who this person can be and bring that realism. And I love the route that you went. And, when it comes to as real as you can be in this world, right? So
well, I think that's what makes high concept filmmaking work, or high concept storytelling. You need something real, something tangible, something human. A great example or training ground for that. I mean, I've had several. I mean, one was, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was very human, it was very real, it was very indicative of the high school experience and puberty. It was really like, it's kind of a metaphor for puberty in there, and I think that who couldn't watch that, and what, a whole generation of kids were affected by that because it rang true, even though it was about this guy who gets bit by a radioactive spider and fights this Green Goblin guy on a hang glider. Like, it's just crazy. But it was so grounded and real. And I think that, True Blood was also another example of that, where I was very fortunate because it was so real and so colloquial. And there were metaphors for things that rang true to things that society was dealing with or not getting ready to deal with. And I think that's really what made it, you bought into it. And I wanted people to buy in. I didn't want, if it's not tethered down, it's going to float away. These things are like hot air balloons, and really sci-fi and fantasy. You really have to ground them in something human. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want it to just be about this, like I said, this guy in orange pirate booties and chainmail. I wanted it to be about a man who went through something, and this is where he's come to the other side.
When it comes to finding somebody that can teach you katana or someone who can take you to the right gun range, how do you
Mhm.
go about that process? Who do you hit up, and who did you find in the end for those two experiences that really helped, sort of shepherd you through gaining the knowledge that you obviously have at this point for this character?
Well, I walk through life um, with a mental Rolodex, and I'm constantly adding cards to it. So, at this stage in the game, and the fact that, like, I think, even though I'm not, if you put me in a lineup and said which guy looks like a Navy SEAL, a lot of the times you'd say me. Whereas I have friends of mine who are Navy SEALs, and who were Navy SEALs, and you wouldn't necessarily think that that's that guy, but I look like that guy, so I get to play that guy in a lot of things. So over the years, you know, I've been cast in a lot of different military roles, and I've befriended, one of the guys in my wedding party is a former SEAL, who I actually hired to train me for a film that I did years and years ago, when the actual production, did not hire a Navy SEAL. So but I was already out ahead of it. I already showed up to set ready to go with my script, with notes in it, everything. And it just got to the point where I flew the guy to the location. I said, "What are you doing for the next couple of weeks? Yeah, I'll fly you down. I'll put you up at the hotel. It's on the beach. You'll love it. I'll pay you. Come on." Like, oh, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Come here. Come here. Sorry, it's my sidekick.
Yes. What's up? What's up?
So, I and then I became friends with him, and like I said, he's in my wedding party. And then, there were other, Navy SEAL centric projects where I got to meet other guys who, were in the command, and different, kind of branches of the Navy, and I generally get along with those guys really well. So, we go out shooting or hang or talk or get together, grab coffee every once in a while, and I stay in touch with those guys, and they become my friends. So there's that. The other side of it is, like, I knew there was a guy who was really heavily into Japanese martial arts specifically, and I called him and said, "Hey, have you ever worked out with katanas? Did you ever train with katanas?" And he said yes. And I said, "Well, I need to train for a movie. Where would I go?" And you just do your detective work. It's like police work. You just
Mm.
follow up an old lead that you remember from 4 years ago or 10 years ago, and and then you just have to be open minded and willing to to get in there,
Yeah.
and really dedicate yourself to what you're doing.
And not be perfect, right? Because that's the thing for me, and I feel like a lot of guys, we think of going to the gun range or going to use a katana. You don't want to look awkward, so you have to sort of allow yourself to just dive in fully, and then little, sooner than you know it, all of a sudden where certain things are. Tell me about your first experience holding a katana, your first experience, at the gun range, or maybe the last experience leading into this experience, when it comes to Justice
Well,
League.
and that's the thing. That's one of the components that you have to have as an actor. You have to be willing to fail, especially during the research and training process. You just have to be humble. But with that said, I think the muscle that you develop over time as an actor is that you are quick to, I don't want to say mastery, because I think that trivializes actual masters, but you can get to a place quickly where you can appear as though you've mastered something. And that's the that's the balance. That's the sweet spot that you want to find. And that all starts with but I think that actors are used to getting things quickly. You know,
Yeah.
you pick things up quickly. Also coming from like a physical background, like, you know, and I've at this stage in the game, I've studied so many different things that I understand the principle behind it. Like I understand the katana is very interesting. The katana is an extension of your body, and to the point where, you know, if you see someone punch through boards or blocks of ice or cement blocks or like the 1 inch punch, that's a focusing of the chi and of the energy into this strike. And that's applicable to all types of sports. And certainly when you get into katana training, you have to focus your chi into the sword and cut. And it's not necessarily how hard you swing, it really is this focusing of energy. And I think if you can understand that principle, then you can start to understand how to make cuts. Because I would watch grown men, um, I would watch their katanas bounce off of the bamboo, you know, where they couldn't find a way to focus that.
Mm.
And that's, I think, a really fun thing about acting is, you know, at the end of the day, I've lived so many lives, I've done so many things, I've studied so many different things.
Yeah. Tell me, did you fire off at the gun range anything like the M4 or the weapon that you use in Justice League?
I've shot those so much, and own some of those things. Uh, so you know, I'm always training, knocking the dust off. Whenever I've got something to train up for, I'll call my Navy SEAL buddy, and we'll go up there. And he's a really fantastic teacher. His name's Jeff Reeves. He runs a company called Shadow Works, and he's a phenomenal teacher. He has these great drills and progressions, and I've worked with him enough that you know, there's a shorthand, but he's you know, he's just a great teacher. So you need to find yourself like the best teachers.
That's great, man. Hopefully, I can look him up next time in the West Coast when travel happens again. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned again, like you said, I understand. That scene was smaller than what we want to see with Deathstroke. When it comes to like a Deathstroke training plan, you've trained up for a few things in past projects. What would the physicality of Deathstroke be like? Would you train, differently than you have in the past, or would it just be sort of keeping in line what you do present day?
When you're doing a film like this or playing a character like this, he's a soldier. So it's just about practical movements. So that's it. Like I said, it's like, I need to be able to fight. So from that perspective, it's more about training like a fighter or training like a soldier. So I didn't get to do it, but that's what I was planning on doing, was something along those lines. That was, just very, very practical.
Did you mess at all with blocking an eye or seeing what having some sight taken away from you would feel like?
Um, yeah, I mean, there were a few takes where I reached for that champagne glass and grabbed air, because when you have an eye block, you have an eye patch, or you have an eye closed, your depth perception is gone. So um, I kind of chuckled to myself when I watched the Snyder cut, because I was like, oh, that's probably the one take where I actually grabbed the glass off the table. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the challenge, or at least what I was thinking about doing. Once again, I never got to do this. I didn't get into it. But what I had fantasized about, or was planning, was some form of hybrid martial art, or some kind of like offshoot of ninjutsu, in which someone's posture or stance would change to account for the fact that they only had one good eye. So in order to get periphery, I mean, if you cover your eye, you can't. This whole side of the room is gone. So I now, once I turn this way, I can still see you, but I also have some sort of periphery. So it was kind of coming up with this sideways kind of cock stance, um, which I was excited to see how that worked, and to work with an expert on coming up with things like that, things that were very proprietary to the character, and really putting a different spin on it. You know, you can notice the trend is like, I wanted this character to be mine and be very unique, but be very well thought out.
Yeah, man, and that's clear. And I think I can only imagine. Again, it must feel good for, of course, for Zach, but to see it come a little bit closer to what he was envisioning for the trilogy, to sort of
Mm,
set that stage and the response. I mean, just the other day, I was on Twitter. I saw over a million tweets, way more than that. Restore the Snyder Verse. People are
mm,
calling for it. People want more from these
mm.
characters. Like, you have the content here, you have the work done. What are your feelings? Obviously, there's things that you've already worked out, but is this, I mean, is it possible? Are you ready to make it happen if it were to happen? And I mean, people obviously want it clearly.
I've never not been ready. So, it would be it would be a fucking shame if, at least to some degree, some of this wasn't continued. And I think that, a million fans would agree with that. So we'll see. Studios have their way of they have their plans, and they have their ways of doing business, and I really do think that the world was robbed of seeing a Gareth Evans Deathstroke origin film that would have occupied an independent space within the DC universe. It would have been its own story. It would have been its own contained story that it would have been. Well, it was like Joker, with Joaquin Phoenix, where Joker kind of exists in his own special universe, but you could see how other characters could potentially come in and out, but it would have its own flavor. And that's what was being planned, and I was really excited to see Gareth stick his flag in that part of a really big tentpole universe, and with his style, is such a unique style, and I think that would have lent itself really, really, really well, and would have given people something different, but also something that I think the fans of the genre would have lost their minds. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be sad if I didn't get to do a Deathstroke origin or use that story, because generally everybody I go into detail with, or give them the pitch, they you know buy me lunch and I'll tell you what we were gonna do. And I run them through it, and they're like, God damn it, I want to see that movie. And I'm like, I haven't met one person that hasn't had that, you know, hasn't said exactly that at the end. So yeah, it would be sad, but um, we'll see.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, with Ben and his Batman when that first got announced, I
you know,
mean, so perfect. I can't wait to see everything that he does with Batman, and
mm.
then to have that announcement and you guys going head to head. I was like, it just seemed like the right equation, for these
Yeah, it was.
characters.
Well, he was coming off of Argo, producing, directing, starring in Best Picture of the Year, and he got robbed at the Oscars. How does your movie win Best Picture and you don't even get nominated for Best Director? Like, 9 times out of 10, the Best Director Oscar goes to the Best Picture winner.
Clearly,
It's so,
yeah.
how do you not even get nominated? That's a joke. It's crazy. So I mean, you're talking about a very prolific guy who had an Oscar for writing, Oscar for producing, should have had an Oscar for directing too. And like, how excited I can tell you how excited I was to be a part of that man's project. I was like, and we talked about it, and he was like, you're in good hands, and I believe it. I was such a big fan of the town and Argo. I mean, all of it. So Yeah, it's a bummer, man. It's all of those what ifs, you know, in some other dimension. Ben got to make that movie.
Yeah, that would been beautiful. I think I love having these conversations are both like, hopeful and cathartic
Mhm,
for me. I hope to a degree. I know it's rough for you, the fact that the things are gone, but it's out now. People want it. The
mhm,
fans have said it. They
mhm.
want it. You guys accomplished something amazing despite everything that was thrown in the way. And I think that's a testament to what you guys did.
Well, I was happy to be a small part of that. I was happy to be, I was happy for Zach to call me back and, dust the suit off. Because now I'm actually a part of the Snyder Verse. Because the end credit sequence, Zach directed it, Zach shot it, but it really was the prelude or the prologue to the Batman movie. It really wasn't a part of Justice League. It had nothing to do with Justice League. That was just our prologue that was, tacked on at the end. So yeah, it was fun to be able to come back and, you know, do I wish I would have got to play the character? Of course, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the biggest job of your career is in your hand. But it's also not the only time that that's happened either. I've had, I mean, shit. I'm not ready to talk about it, but I had one of the worst. Like, I don't even want to call it a heartbreak. It was like the worst back breaks ever of my career, where I was the unanimous pick of the entire creative team, the entire studio, like the rights holder, the showrunner, the author, of this gigantic IP. And the head of the network said, no, that's not your guy. And it was a 6-month process of jumping through hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop. So, this shit happens. I mean, Spider-Man, I was cast as Flash Thompson. 2 weeks later, my roommate came home and said, my friend auditioned for your role. I went, that's not possible. And the head of the studio at the time said, I don't think he's whatever. She didn't like me. And so took the role away from me after Sam Raimi gave it to me, and then searched for somebody else for a month and a half. You did the whole search all over again. And then my agent called me and said, well, they didn't find anybody else. So the part's yours. Like, just like, welcome to Hollywood, kid. So
Wow.
it's brutal. It's just you have to rip really thick skin, and you have to have a quarterback's ability to forget about the last play and move on. You have to. You have to say, okay, Batman's not happening. It's over. Okay, I start work on the treatment for the origin story tomorrow. That doesn't happen. Okay, who's directing Suicide 2? Let me read that script. You just move to the next. You just have to keep moving, um, and fighting. And you know, um, like I said, it's not an isolated incident. This type of thing happens a lot, and you got to be, you have to be strong enough to get through it and just move to the next thing.
What are you looking at next, man? What are you trying to develop next? What kind of roles do you want to have next? Obviously, I still want to see a Deathstroke movie, but for you, where are you also looking?
Well, I started producing because I wasn't getting offered the kind of roles that I wanted. I mean, I should say that's not the only reason. I started producing because I've been producing since I was in high school. I made my own films, so it's something that comes naturally to me. But be, I think because of that, I've been able to develop, um, projects where I can act. I come from classical theater, and I remember screen testing for 300 Part Two, and they said, okay, you're going to do it with a British dialect. And I said, okay, well, which one of the 26 British dialects is appropriate for an Athenian warrior who, actually had a language that, that isn't English? And I said, fine, all right, okay, I'll come in and do it. And I remember that the director, Noam Morrow, I went through it the first time through, and he kind of cocked his head and was like, do it again. I went, okay. And I did it again. And he cocked his head again. Yeah. I said, do it again. Did it again. And he said, I didn't think you were going to be able to do that. And I said, do what? But it's like somehow sometimes your reputation procedure, or at least that box that people have put you in their mind. And that happens with interviews too. Sometimes I can tell the person's written the article before they've even talked. They're just looking for something that corroborates the fact that, you know, I'm interested in, or that I'm somebody that I'm not. It's like, it's always best when people speak to you and they don't know who you are and they get to discover who you are. And I think the trap of becoming, famous for something as an actor or as an artist is that as soon as you do that thing and you break through and become famous, or it becomes popular, then that's who you are. And bang, there goes the stamp. And then everything you're going to get offered after that is going to be that. And unfortunately, for me, it was a lot of things that I was not interested in doing or pursuing. I said no to everything for about a year and a half straight. The only thing I said yes to, Pee-wee's Big Holiday. And I told Paul, but it's like, I told Paul, I just was like, I said, this is my crybaby. It was like Johnny Depp became famous for 21 Jump Street and didn't, just really wasn't into continuing the teen idol, that teen idol box corner he was painted into. And so he went off and did a John Waters movie. That was his next role. And for me, after the Magic Mikes, it was like, my next role is going to be with Paul Rubens in a Pee-wee movie that's really dark, comedic, film. And so, I think it's like, producing has offered me an opportunity to show the entertainment industry who I actually am, not who they thought I was, but who I actually am. And so it's to continue down that road to find, new things that excite me. I went from basically like a prison minor league baseball movie to, a homeless drug addict, powerless version of Superman to now this movie about the Smiths, and the breakup of the Smiths in 1987. So it's like those aren't easily put into categories, but what I would hope is that people would be interested to see what I'm doing next, or what are you up to now, or know that it's going to be something fun. It's going to be a fun ride to go on, and so it's just finding projects like that. I'm also in the middle of negotiating this thing that would really jump me onto a completely different potentially career track, or would kind of further the producing thing to another really extreme level. And we'll see if that thing if that thing comes to bear fruit. But yeah, I don't know, just continue finding interesting stories, and we'll see.
Yeah. Man, I'm excited for all that stuff. I'm definitely excited to hear what you're up to next. I love the gaming stuff that you do too, and the love you have for games. I'm a bit of a gamer myself, so you know these days there's so many great properties. People are seeing the potential there, the excitement there. I have friends who are streamers who are just, their numbers are insane these days, and I think that's obviously Hollywood's figured out that interest to another level. Are there any properties or games that you've thought of bringing to life since you've sort of been in that world for a little bit now?
Well, yeah, well, that's what led to me working with Dungeons and Dragons. I grew up with it, and always wanted to work for a company like that as a kid. So I get to do that in my spare time. I get to kind of moonlight as a game designer. There's a game called Hero Quest, which is basically Dungeons and Dragons in a box, and they're in the process of relaunching it, and I game designed an entire 10 adventure quest pack that
That come out?
will be available in the fall at some point.
Okay.
So so I got to do that, which was hard work. I mean, it was intense designing that, but I love it. I understand how to do it. I've also gotten to write for Dungeons and Dragons. I wrote part of an adventure module that came out last year and created a bunch of characters that appear in it that I licensed to D&D that now appear in canon. And I designed and we sell little miniature action figures of all the characters that I created, and they're available for purchase. And t-shirts and stickers and stuff of all these characters, and they appear in video games. I actually licensed them out to a video game called Idle Champions. So it's just fun to create this kind of separate revenue stream, like it actually, it's worth my time. Like I really as a grown-up, it's worth my time. I actually, I can make money from it, and it's fun, and and it's a way for me to be creative. I mean, I guess that's really what it's about. It's just how many different ways can I be creative. I started a streetwear line, because I was into heavy metal and fantasy art, and I thought that those could make cool pieces of wearable art, and so I started the company, and enlisted some graphic designers, and got to work on that, and that's been really successful and really fun to do. And so it's just like, I don't know. I think it's like I grew up with Henry Rollins' work ethic in mind. He would keep a journal of like everything he did that was productive and all of his output, and I think about that a lot. And I'm trying to just get it all out and get it in the hands of people that also enjoy it.
I love it.
But
I
yeah,
actually
there are
didn't know about the
properties
heavy.
absolutely that I'm actually
Yeah.
getting ready to take out to market. So it's not stuff that I'm ready to talk about yet, but yes, there are properties that I have aligned with and am currently in various stages of development with, and hopefully, those will stick to the wall.
I would love that, man. I actually didn't know about the heavy metal thing. What bands? What heavy metal are you into? What stuff did
Oh
you license?
God. Oh well, I was big into all the artwork of Frank Frazetta, so I have a bunch of Frank Frazetta pieces. I designed all the pieces for Netflix's Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance when that came out last year. We had a
Yeah.
capsule collection that launched at New York Comic Con. I have a capsule collection with Dungeons and Dragons where I work with heavy metal artists to redesign some of their characters, into like really, really cool shit. It looks like you're wearing a Norwegian heavy metal shirt, but it's actually something that a D&D person would like, like you can wear it in plain sight, kind of. You can wear it to a metal show.
I love it.
I love Ozzy, and I've been talking to their camp about doing some stuff with them, which would be
Awesome,
great.
man.
So I have like kind of a rethinking of some of the Aussie lore that I'd like to turn into some fun pieces. And but I grew up with like Pantera, Sepultura, Biohazard was my first concert. Metallica. I was at every White Zombie show. I mean, I watch
Sepultura. Yes.
Danny Carey drumming videos obsessively. Like while I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I'm watching Danny Carey drum just to fathom that level of mastery, like we were talking about before. So yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I'm big into all of that.
And it was great to chat with you, man. Stay safe. Hope the family's well. Take care of yourself. Thanks for the time, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank
Appreciate it,
you very
Joe.
much.